Welcome back to We Talk Boxing. So this is just a post-fight breakdown between the fight on the weekend with Artur Beterbiev versus Joe Smith Jr. So first of all, congratulations to Artur Beterbiev, who now holds the WBO belt along with his WBC and IBF belts. So he has now 3 of the 4 major belts to his arsenal. So this fight started off really explosive between both guys. Both guys coming out quite early, obviously trying to land their own big right hands onto their opponents. Obviously, for me though, the biggest shots were coming from Beterbiev. Obviously, as every time he pretty much caught Joe Smith with the overhand right, Joe Smith looked, it looked as if he felt every single shot. And it was a good fight while it lasted. Like I said, it did start off quite explosive between both guys. But quite early on, within round 1, Joe Smith, changed his game plan up slightly by trying to throw the jab a little bit more towards Beterbiev, trying to, put Beterbiev off his game. But to be fair, Beterbiev, stuck to his game plan and, he looked unfazed. He was using that lateral movement to, to get away from Joe Smith Jr., as well as he was pumping out his own jab as well, which was quite good because at times, as he was throwing his own jab, he would then, evade, kind of like slip Joe Smith's jab and then land the big overhand right. And again, as I mentioned, it was that big overhand right which was causing Joe Smith a lot of trouble, in that first round. Then, obviously, towards the end, I'd probably say last 15, maybe 10 seconds of that round, Beterbiev, landed 2 good right hands onto Joe Smith Jr., which caught him, and obviously Joe Smith Jr. went down. Fair play to him, he got back up. His legs looked a little bit unsteady, but the referee asked him if he was okay, and he said yes, so the referee allowed them to continue. But there was literally only a second left on that round, so obviously both guys went back to their corner. So round 2 started off pretty much like round 1. Both guys coming out, trying to land their own big shots. But for me, that lateral movement, that jab that Beterbiev was throwing out was just key because, at times he would just come over the top with that right hand, slipping Joe Smith's jab, and then bang, he would land his big right hand. And again, he caught Smith Jr., who went down for a second time. This time he got back up quite quick. Looked a little bit unsteady, but it wasn't too bad, to be fair. So, he already went down twice at this point. But then, again, fair play to Joe Smith. He tried to pull it on Beterbiev, But again, that just played into Beterbiev's into his game plan, really, because that's what he wanted. He wanted Joe Smith to fight fire with fire. And obviously, he then caught Joe Smith again for the 3rd and final time in that second round. And to be honest, that was it at this point, Fair play to Smith. He got back up onto his feet, but the referee, waved it off straight away. And it was it was the right decision because when you look, 10 seconds afterwards, when you look at Smith, his legs looked a little bit, wobbly, and he just, he was stepping backwards and stuff. So to me, he wasn't quite right. He wasn't there, So it was a good stoppage at that point in time. It was a brilliant fight. My prediction was that Beterbiev was going to knock Joe Smith out. I said between 4 to 6 rounds. Obviously, this fight ended up in 2 rounds. It was finished in 2. So I was quite shocked. I was surprised, because I actually thought that Smith Jr., I thought he would have caused Beterbiev a little bit more trouble, before the fight would have ended. I thought he would have maybe have caught Beterbiev, maybe, hurt him or maybe put him down. But it was a bit too easy for Beterbiev, to be honest. He was just kept walking forward and using that lateral movement at times, and every time he just threw his hands and he was landing, Smith Jr. just couldn't take it. But it was a good fight while it lasted. I would have loved to have seen more, just to see if Smith Jr. could have, given that a little bit more, made Beterbiev think that a little bit more. But as I said, Beterbiev got the win. He's got his WBO belt now, so he could add that to his collection, WBC and his IBF. So that was a good win for him, good stoppage win. That now takes his record to 18-0 with 18 KOs. You know what I mean? So he's looking like unstoppable, really. His KO power, his punch power is just incredible. You know what I mean? He's a top-notch fighter in that division. Now, at this event, obviously Anthony Yarde was there. You know what I mean? He was watching it live, him and his team. And obviously he had quite a lot to say after the fight. But, you know what I mean, to cut things short, you know what I mean, like, he pretty much kind of confirmed that him and Beterbiev will be next. You know what I mean? And apparently they've signed contracts as well for October. There's a date in October. And I'm going to do a separate video about that as well, so you guys can stay tuned and obviously watch that video as well, and just to kind of, you know what I mean, give your thoughts on that as well. So I won't talk too much about that. But, you know what I mean, things happen in boxing, and if that fight does get cancelled or it doesn't go ahead, you know what I mean, what next for Beterbiev? You know what I mean, where should he go? Who should he fight? Now, the division itself, you know what I mean, there's some good level fighters in that division. Obviously, Beterbiev's got 3 of the 4 big belts, so, you know what I mean, it makes sense, to be fair, you know what I mean, for there to be an undisputed fight between him and Bivol, who, obviously, Bivol's recently come off a brilliant, you know what I mean, win against the pound-for-pound fighter at the time, Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean, he beat him on points. So, you know what I mean, Beterbiev versus Bivol, I think that'd be a brilliant fight. I'd like to see that, because for me, I'd like to see one champion in each division. So, you know what I mean, if these two go head to head, you know what I mean, we could then potentially see who is the best at that current time in that division. But again, if that fight can't be made, who else? Who else is out there? You know what I mean, straight away, Beterbiev's got 3 of the 4 belts. So, you know what I mean, at some point, his mandatories are going to be, you know what I mean, they're going to be called. So, you know what I mean, if you can't get the Yarde fight, or if something happens and that doesn't go ahead, and the Bivol fight can't be made for some strange reason, then obviously it makes sense for him to take on maybe one of his mandatory challenges. Or if he doesn't have to have a mandatory straight away, then there's an option as well, you know what I mean, for him to potentially move up to the next weight, you know what I mean, cruiserweight division, and potentially challenge one of those champions in that division, either at IBF, WBC, or WBO, one of their champions, and maybe try and become a 2-weight champion, you know what I mean, straight away, which would be, again, brilliant for him, because he could always come back down and fight Bivol, or, you know what I mean, fight Yarde or whoever, you know what I mean, for his next fight after that. But, you know what I mean, we're going to move on now and just talk a little bit about Joe Smith Jr. and where I think he should kind of go. Obviously, you know what I mean, at this point in time, he's fought both of the current champions who have the belts, who occupy the belts in that division, obviously Bivol and Beterbiev, you know what I mean. So realistically, he ain't gonna have a title shot opportunity for, you know what I mean, for sometimes, you know what I mean, for any time soon. You know what I mean, he's gonna have to wait. You know what I mean, he's gonna be dropped back in the pecking order. You know what I mean, but there's some good fights in that division, and you know what I mean, a few of them that I like, such as Anthony Yarde. Do you know what I mean? Callum Smith, Callum Johnson, maybe even bout. You know what I mean? There's some good fights, and again, it's against some good, credible opponents, people that are on the up. You know what I mean, and potential future champions as well. And you never know, if he does manage to beat, you know what I mean, some of these up and coming fighters and stuff, maybe get 1 or 2 wins or whatever. You never know. Then in sometime in the near future, he might be able to like state a claim and say, hey, you know what I mean, I beat some of these up and coming fighters. You know what I mean, like you know what I mean, I won another title shot. And at this point, you know what I mean, people like Bivol or potentially Beterbiev, you know what I mean, may even move up, you know what I mean, or they may just vacate their titles, you know what I mean, and there'll be an opportunity there for someone else to potentially grab that title and, you know what I mean, challenge Joe Smith. So there is that opportunity again, you know what I mean, in the near future. But, you know what I mean, realistically, you know what I mean, there's no shame in him losing to 2 of the better fighters in that division. 2 tough warriors as well, you know what I mean? So he's been in 2 big fights there, and he's come out on, you know what I mean, with 2 losses. But like I says, if he gets some good wins back under his belt, you never know. Next 18 months, maybe 2 years down the line, you may state a claim for another title shot. But anyway, this is just a short video, you know what I mean, just to give you my post-fight predictions and my post-fight thoughts and stuff like that, and where I think both men should go. Obviously, please let me know your thoughts, where you guys think with Beterbiev and Smith should go next, who they should fight, and where their careers are going, really. Just let me know your thoughts and stuff as well. So please like, subscribe, and comment. Bless.